Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission here is always the same, to try to make sense of the just overwhelming flow of global news that comes at us every single week.
Right. We take that huge stack of information, all the research, the geopolitical updates, and we really try to boil it down.
Exactly. We want to find the crucial pieces of knowledge you actually need, and we try to do it without all the jargon, getting right to what's really shaping our world.
And this week, the sheer scope of the source material is just staggering. We're looking at some genuinely bizarre paradoxes.
Like what?
Well, on one hand, you have the fate of entire nations being decided by, very aggressive foreign policy, ancient history even. And on the other,
Yes.
the latest science confirms our closest neighbor, the moon, has been sort of secretly stealing from us for billions of years.
I love that. Stealing our atmosphere. It's a cosmic thief.
It really is.
So this is a deep dive that spans what the microscopic level brain rhythms that define who we are, all the way to the absolute macroscopic.
Right, like the huge infrastructural needs of AI and these really volatile geopolitical situations from the Arctic all the way to Tehran.
It's a lot to cover. So let's start putting the pieces together.
Ready when you are.
Okay, we have to start there. The cosmic thief.
Yeah.
This was by far the most fun science fact I read all week.
It's incredible stuff.
And it's not science fiction, right? This is newly confirmed research.
Not at all. This is confirmed. The moon has been slowly, almost invisibly siphoning away Earth's atmosphere.
When I first saw the headline, I had this image of the moon with like a giant straw.
Not quite. It's much more subtle than that, but the implications are, frankly, immense.
That's not just a theory anymore.
No, this is confirmed research. And it shows this invisible, continuous interaction has been shaping the geological and maybe even the biological evolution of both Earth and the moon.
So what's the core finding? What's actually happening?
The key thing is that particles from Earth's upper atmosphere are literally reaching the moon's surface.
And not just bouncing off.
No, they're potentially integrating themselves directly into the lunar soil, the regolith.
Okay, that raises a pretty big question for me. How does our atmosphere, which I thought was held here by Earth's gravity, travel 240,000 miles to the moon?
It's a really elegant cosmic dance, actually. It involves the solar wind and Earth's magnetic field, our magnetosphere.
Our shield.
Our shield, exactly. It deflects most of the solar wind, which is just this constant stream of charged particles from the sun. But the shield isn't a perfect sphere.
It's more like a teardrop shape trailing behind us.
Precisely. We call it the magnetic tail. And along this tail, charged particles from our upper atmosphere, we're talking ions like oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, they get accelerated.
So they get shot down this tail.
They do. And as the moon passes through this long magnetic tail on its orbit, these high-speed particles, which have now escaped Earth's gravity, just get deposited right onto the lunar surface.
So it's a continuous leak, a tiny one, but it adds up.
A very small leak, but over billions of years. It's a significant amount of material that's been delivered to the moon.
Okay, so what here? If these particles have things we need for life, oxygen, hydrogen, and they're now mixed into the moon's soil, what does this mean for something like the Artemis missions?
It could be a complete game changer for human space exploration. We're trying to build a sustainable human presence on the moon.
That is the goal.
If we can confirm these Earthborne elements are in the regolith and we can extract them, it completely changes our resource strategy.
So we wouldn't have to bring as much with us.
Exactly. We might be able to process the soil for breathable air or even water far more easily than we thought. The moon's theft has actually been delivering potential resources right to our future doorstep.
It flips the script from resource scarcity to resource discovery. That could shave years off mission planning.
It really could. It's just a profound reminder that these celestial bodies, they aren't isolated. They're constantly exchanging material.
Before we get too far out into the cosmos, we should take a moment to acknowledge a couple of significant cultural losses this week, starting with the passing of Scott Adams.
Yes, Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, died this week at 68. His wife confirmed he'd been battling metastatic prostate cancer for some time.
And his initial legacy, for decades, was built on this incredibly sharp, just universally relatable humor.
Oh, absolutely.
Dilbert was the voice mocking the absurdity of corporate culture. The bad bosses, the pointless meetings. He just nailed the soul-crushing part of office life.
He was a master of that satire because everyone felt it. It was a shared experience.
But the later years of his career, they became very different, inextricably linked to political controversy.
Very much so. His death was actually announced during a live stream of his own podcast, which really just highlighted that sharp political turn his public persona had taken.
Right? In 2023, he faced this huge backlash after making some really divisive comments about race.
And that led to many major newspapers, the New York Times, the Washington Post, dropping the strip completely.
He became a very vocal and, often polarizing political commentator.
An overt supporter of figures like President Donald Trump. And President Trump did express condolences on social media, praising Adams as an influencer and acknowledging his health battle.
It just highlights this really complicated dynamic now between art, the artist, and politics in the digital age.
Can the art stand on its own when the artist becomes so consumed by politics? It's a tough question.
A question for each person to answer, I suppose. And on a separate note, we also lost actor T.K. Carter at 69.
Another sad loss. Many will know him from some really memorable roles. He was in John Carpenter's classic horror film, The Thing.
And the sitcom Punky Brewster. A huge part of my childhood.
A true character actor. Reports said he'd been dealing with some health issues recently. His career spanned decades, and he really left a lasting impression on a lot of people.
Okay, let's shift back into high-tech and deep science. We know the moon is an atmospheric bandit. What else is going on out there?
Yeah.
NASA's X-ray instrument, NICER? What's it telling us?
So NICER, that's the Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer. It's giving us this fascinating new picture of black holes.
We usually just think of them as these silent vacuum cleaners of the universe.
Right, just destroyers. But NICER's findings paint them more as powerful regulators. The term being used is cosmic seesaws.
Cosmic seesaws. Okay, unpack that for us. How can something that just sucks everything in also be a balancing mechanism for a whole galaxy?
It's all about feedback, the energy and matter they eject back out. The supermassive black holes at the center of galaxies have these huge accretion disks of material spiraling into them.
Right.
But as that material gets closer, some of it is launched outwards at incredible speeds.
In the form of jets and winds.
Exactly. Powerful relativistic jets and huge galactic winds. And these jets and winds, they blast through the surrounding gas and dust clouds, which dictates where new stars can form.
So it's not just destruction, it's creation. Or regulation, I guess.
It's regulation. There are two types of feedback. Kinetic, which is just the physical pushing of gas by the jets.
And
Thermal, which is heating the gas so much that it's too hot to collapse and form stars. So the black hole is balancing the galaxy's mass, preventing runaway star formation. It keeps everything orderly, hence the seesaw.
That is a much more nuanced picture. And speaking of star formation, the Hubble Space Telescope gave us a pretty spectacular view of some protostars in the Orion Molecular Cloud Complex.
Oh, it's a beautiful observation, about 1,300 light years away. And it's challenging some really long-held assumptions.
What was the old assumption?
Well, Hubble was looking at the gas and dust around these baby stars and the powerful jets they shoot out. We always assumed that these jets violently carved out big cavities in the surrounding material.
Clearing the way for the star to grow.
Exactly. The idea was that the speed of that clearing determined how fast the star could pull in mass and finish forming.
But that's not what Hubble saw, is it?
Yeah.
The key detail was about the cavities themselves.
That's right. Hubble showed that the cavities are not expanding much as the protostars evolve. And on top of that, the rate at which the protostars are pulling in new material is actually decreasing over time.
So if the jets aren't clearing out space and the star is eating less, what does that mean for how stars are born?
It suggests it might not be about brute force. It might be more about the environment's ability to cool itself down. If the gas can't cool efficiently, it can't collapse under gravity to feed the protostar.
So star formation is less about the violence of the jets and more about the thermal conditions of the cloud around it.
That's the new thinking. It's a pretty fundamental refinement in astrophysics.
Okay, from the galactic scale, let's jump right down into our own heads. A fascinating breakthrough about the mechanics of self-perception. The feeling that your hand is actually your hand.
It's a great study. It reveals that our body awareness, the scientific term is proprioception, is tied to a very specific brain rhythm.
Yeah, that would be
Alpha brain waves. They oscillate between 8 and 12 hertz. And it turns out these rhythms are absolutely vital for integrating all our sensory information.
So that feeling of ownership over my arm is just my brain doing a rhythmic synchronization exercise.
In essence, yes. The study showed that faster alpha rhythms help synchronize what you see, your hand moving, with what you feel, the tactile input. That synchronization reinforces the feeling that it's yours.
And if the rhythm is slower,
If it's slower or disorganized, you get ambiguity. The brain struggles to line up the signals, and the body part can feel detached or even alien.
The applications for this seem huge, especially for things like prosthetics.
Revolutionary.
Mm.
The goal with a prosthetic isn't just movement, it's integration. If we can manipulate or optimize a user's alpha brainwaves, we could make a prosthetic limb feel less like a tool and more like a true part of their body.
And in virtual reality, too, I imagine.
Absolutely. It could help eliminate that uncanny valley feeling where your avatar's body just doesn't quite feel like your own. You could create much more convincing, immersive experiences.
Okay, from the brain back to the moon. Let's talk about future power in the void. NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and the Department of Energy, the DOE, just solidified a major partnership.
They did. They signed a memorandum of understanding to jointly develop what they call a fission surface power system,
In plain English.
a compact, tough nuclear reactor designed for long missions on the moon and eventually Mars. The goal is to get the first one on the lunar surface by 2030.
So why the big push for nuclear in space right now? Haven't we been making big leaps in solar power?
We have, but solar is just not enough for permanent, large-scale operations. On the moon, you have a 2-week-long night with zero solar energy.
Right.
And on Mars, you have massive dust storms that can last for months and completely degrade solar panels. A fission system gives you reliable, abundant power 247, no matter the weather or time of day.
And that kind of power is critical for things like processing resources, manufacturing, supporting habitats.
It's critical for all of it. This kind of stability is absolutely necessary to achieve President Trump's stated goals for American space superiority and a sustained presence beyond Earth. It's really a non-negotiable step if we're serious about off-world colonization.
It's an investment in becoming independent from Earth's supply chain.
That's a great way to put it. It's about self-sufficiency.
Okay, that discussion on advanced engineering for power is a perfect segue into our next section. Technology's cutting edge
Yeah.
and its environmental cost. And we start with an innovation in orbit that sounds almost, quaint. A knitted satellite.
We're talking about CarbSAR. It's a UK-engineered satellite, and it's a showcase of some incredible ingenuity. This is where high-tech engineering meets, of all things, textile production.
Because its antenna is made from yarn.
Gold-plated tungsten yarn, to be exact.
Yeah.
And yes, it was made using modified knitting machines, the kind you normally use for clothing.
I have to stop you. We're putting something knitted into the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that not just fall apart?
It sounds totally counterintuitive, I know, but it's brilliant. Traditional satellite antennas are heavy, they're rigid, they're expensive.
Right.
By using this flexible knitted structure, they solve a bunch of problems at once. It's cheaper, it's more flexible, so you can pack it tightly for launch, and most importantly, it weighs a lot less. And in rocketry, every single gram you save translates to huge cost savings.
So what is this gold-plated yarn antenna actually doing up there?
It's capturing high-resolution synthetic aperture radar imagery. SAR, for short.
Okay, and SAR is the one that can see through clouds day or night.
That's right, because it's not passive like a camera.
Right.
It actively sends out its own microwave signals and then measures the echo that bounces back.
So it paints its own picture of the ground.
Exactly, a detailed three-dimensional picture. And CarbSAR's job is vital for things like monitoring climate change, tracking deforestation, managing natural disasters, a whole range of environmental surveillance tasks. It just proves that sometimes the future of high-tech involves adapting low-tech methods.
That's innovation in orbit. Let's come back down to Earth. The AI revolution is just continuing to dominate every conversation. Hardware, health, and its massive infrastructure demands. Let's start with healthcare.
The potential benefits are just immense, especially economically. One report suggested that fully utilizing AI could save the U.S. healthcare system around $150 billion annually.
That is a staggering number.
Yeah.
But where do those savings come from? Give us some concrete examples.
AI is transforming diagnostics. Algorithms can sift through enormous data sets of clinical notes and medical images way faster than person, and often more accurately, to spot subtle patterns of disease.
Like predicting Alzheimer's.
Exactly. There are machine learning models right now that can predict conditions like Alzheimer's years before symptoms appear just by analyzing a person's electronic health records, or EHRs.
And what about the administrative side?
That's another huge area. Using natural language processing NLP systems can read, interpret, and summarize complex, messy clinical notes, which frees up a ton of time for doctors and nurses.
Okay, it all sounds like a clear win. But, putting AI in charge of patient care has to come with some serious ethical friction. What are the big red flags?
The concerns are very real and very necessary. The biggest one is algorithmic bias.
Meaning the data it's trained on is skewed.
Right. If the training data underrepresents certain ethnic groups, for example, the AI's diagnostic recommendations will be inherently biased against them, leading to worse health outcomes. Then there's data privacy, which is a massive security challenge.
And what about the human element? The whole, bedside manner. Can a machine really provide empathetic care?
That's the third major concern, stakeholder skepticism. And the consensus seems to be, no, it can't. The goal isn't to replace the human doctor. It's to give them a powerful, intelligent support system, a co-pilot, not the pilot.
A crucial distinction. Okay, moving from algorithms in the clinic to robots in the home. 1X Technologies just launched a humanoid robot called NEO.
And this is a major step forward. NEO uses a sophisticated world model, which means it can autonomously learn tasks just by watching videos of humans doing them.
The dream. A robot that learns how to do chores just by observing, but I feel a bot coming. What's the catch?
There are two big catches. First, the price is around $20,000, so it's a luxury item for sure.
Okay, and the second?
More importantly, for challenging or new tasks, it still relies on teleoperation. A human operator has to remotely log in and guide the robot through it.
So I buy a $20,000 robot, and a lot of the time it's just a very expensive remote-controlled doll that someone else is driving.
That's the criticism, yes. The learning model is a breakthrough, but this reliance on a human in the loop raises all sorts of questions about privacy. Who is watching the video feed from inside your home?
Right. Who owns that data? It's a very complex ethical and logistical problem.
It's far from a seamless, autonomous solution yet.
And that need for constant connection and processing power leads us right to the next big AI headache: energy consumption. We're hearing about a sort of local rebellion against data centers.
This is the huge unavoidable conflict. AI needs massive computational power, which means massive data centers, and those are causing a looming power crunch in several regions.
Not to mention the water they use for cooling.
Exactly. So you're seeing intense local backlash over the environmental impact.
And President Trump has weighed in on this, right? Praising some of the industry's efforts to fix it.
Yes, the administration sees this as a critical national infrastructure problem. Microsoft, for its part, responded to the criticism by pledging to pay local utility rates to offset the grid strain, and also announced new initiatives to reduce both power and water usage.
And that got a nod from the White House.
It did. President Trump praised it as a necessary balance between growth and responsibility.
Right.
But the core problem isn't going away. The demand for power from AI is growing exponentially.
Right. It's a massive global challenge. And globally, technology isn't just an economic driver, it's a political weapon. We saw that tension with the U.S. approval for NVIDIA to sell advanced AI chips to China.
That decision perfectly illustrates the tightrope walk between economic interest and national security.
Because NVIDIA is the undisputed leader in the GPUs, the graphics processing units, that you need for advanced AI.
They are. And while the U.S. government wants to maintain a tech advantage over China, American companies are under immense pressure to access that massive Chinese market.
So it's a high-stakes compromise.
It is. The thinking seems to be that completely choking off trade could hurt U.S. companies badly without actually stopping China's progress. They might just double down on making their own chips. It's a calculated risk.
Okay, let's shift to industrial innovation. Ammonia production. It's a process that's over a century old, and it's a huge polluter.
A massive polluter. The Haber-Bosch process, which is how we make ammonia for fertilizer, is responsible for about 1% of all global carbon emissions. It's incredibly energy intensive.
But there's a startup, Amobia, that claims to have a better way.
They do. They claim to have reinvented the process, aiming for a cleaner, more sustainable method that could work in smaller, more modular plants instead of these giant centralized facilities.
If that works, it's a huge deal for decarbonization. Our food system depends on it.
Absolutely. It would be a fundamental step.
Meanwhile, China's massive science push continues. And it's a mix of futuristic ambition and deep historical revisionism.
Their ambition is almost hard to comprehend. They plan to launch over 200,000 internet satellites.
200,000.
To put that in perspective, that's nearly 4 times the total number of all operational satellites currently in orbit. from everyone.
Well, I mean, that immediately raises huge concerns about orbital overcrowding.
Massive concerns. Everyone from SpaceX to Chinese officials themselves are worried about congestion, the risk of collisions, creating more space debris. It's becoming a global regulatory nightmare.
And what about on the agricultural front?
A truly incredible innovation. Chinese scientists have developed a hybrid rice that can essentially clone itself.
What does that mean for farmers?
It means they can replant the seeds from their harvest and get the same high-yield results year after year without having to buy new, expensive hybrid seeds each season. It's a huge deal for global food security.
And archaeologically, they're trying to rewrite the history of computing.
It's a fascinating proposal.
Yeah.
The idea is to recognize an ancient machine from the Western Han Dynasty called the Tihuaji as the world's earliest known binary computer.
A binary computer from over 2,000 years ago.
If they can prove that its complex moving parts were actually encoding information using binary logic, yes, it would push back the history of computation by millennia.
That would be a seismic shift. Okay, now we have to turn to the hard truth of our environment. The climate alarms are getting louder.
The data is grim. European scientists confirm that global warming has now exceeded the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold above pre-industrial levels for the last 3 consecutive years.
And 1.5 degrees was the most ambitious, sort of best-case scenario target from the Paris Agreement. To have breached it 3 years running is not good.
It's very alarming. It signals that the goal is dangerously close to being permanently lost. And it's not theoretical. We're seeing the immediate effects. And yes, 2025 was the 3rd warmest year on record.
And one of the most terrifying effects is this dramatic increase in Arctic fires, especially across northern Eurasia.
NASA data on this is profound. We're seeing a huge increase in the size, the intensity, and the duration of these wildfires. And these aren't just normal forest fires.
They're burning into the peatlands.
Right, burning deep into ancient peat, releasing massive amounts of carbon that have been stored for thousands of years. It's driven directly by rising temperatures, which dry out the landscape and also lead to more lightning strikes, which is the main ignition source up there.
So it's a classic feedback loop. Hotter temperatures mean more fires from lightning, which releases more carbon, which leads to hotter temperatures.
Exactly. The Arctic is starting to burn in a way we've only ever seen in temperate zones before. The consequences are extremely concerning.
We're going to transition now to the echoes of the past. It's a good reminder that history isn't just in a book. It's all around us. And it shows this incredible continuity.
Archaeology is always giving us these moments that just make the vastness of time feel, I don't know, a little more comprehensible.
Like the discovery at the Menga Dolmen in Antequera, Spain.
Right. This is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a monumental piece of Neolithic engineering built 5,000 years ago.
And the discovery was much more recent burials inside it.
Exactly. Archaeologists found the remains of 2 medieval men buried inside. Radiocarbon dating puts them somewhere between the 8th and 11th centuries. 4,000 years after the dolmen was built.
And this wasn't an accident. They were placed there deliberately.
It was a deliberate, ritualistic act. The men were placed right along the dolmen's central axis. It shows that 5 millennia later, a completely different culture was still treating this ancient structure with profound reverence.
That's incredible. That continuity of sacredness is stunning.
It really challenges the idea that these ancient places just lose their meaning over time. For these medieval communities, it was still a powerful spiritual place.
And the DNA from those remains told its own story about medieval Spain.
It did. The analysis showed typical European ancestry, but also significant links to North Africa and the Levant. It really paints a picture of that complex cultural mosaic of medieval Spain, a true crossroads of civilizations.
Then we have this other fascinating collision of past and present, finding royal remains at a nuclear power plant construction site in England.
This was at the Sizewell Sea Site in Suffolk. During the prep work, they unearthed 1,400-year-old royal remains, likely from a major Anglo-Saxon burial site.
And that area is just an archaeological hotbed, isn't it?
It's a hotspot. They're always finding things there. Roman coins, medieval structures, and the irony is just so stark. You have this massive project for Britain's high-tech future literally digging up its own deep past.
So what happens then when progress runs into preservation?
It means careful, slow, and expensive negotiation. They have to document and preserve everything, but it just highlights this duality. Every time we build something big, we're forced to confront the stories of everyone who came before us.
Okay, time for a sharp pivot to the global chessboard. Section 5, Geopolitical Fault Lines. This is dense. We start in the Arctic. with a pretty blunt confrontation over Greenland.
This is the return of a recurring stress point. President Trump has been repeatedly asserting that the U.S. has to acquire Greenland.
And the reasoning is?
Strategic. He cites its military position controlling key Arctic sea routes and its vast resources. The argument is that the U.S. needs to get it to prevent Russia or China from gaining a decisive foothold there.
This isn't just a casual thought bubble. This is being presented as an official stance.
It's being presented as a strategic imperative, and the response from Greenland and Denmark has been, let's just say, unified and unequivocal.
A hard no.
A very hard no. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen and Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen both condemned what they called unacceptable pressure. They made it clear Greenland is not for sale, and they prefer Danish governance.
So to try and smooth things over, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance hosted a summit.
Yes, with the Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers, the goal was clearly damage control and de-escalation.
Shifting the conversation back to cooperation.
Exactly. Arctic security, investment, climate change research. Trying to mend the strain caused by the talk of annexation and a firm U.S. support for Greenland's autonomy within the Kingdom of Denmark.
This whole push has led critics to coin a new term for this foreign policy approach: the Don Roe Doctrine.
That term is gaining traction. It suggests a return to a more aggressive unilateral foreign policy, a sort of throwback to the old Monroe Doctrine, but expanded.
And this isn't playing well everywhere.
Not at all. One expert, Professor Greg Simons, speaking to RT, was highly critical of the European response, or lack thereof. He controversially said, "A jellyfish has more spine than Europeans," suggesting their troop deployments to the Arctic are just symbolic gestures to appease Washington, not a real show of strength.
That sentiment feeds right into the next major geopolitical shift: Venezuela.
This is a massive move. Following the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro by U.S. forces, the Trump administration has asserted indefinite control over the country's oil sales.
And Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves.
It does, but its infrastructure is in ruins after years of mismanagement and sanctions.
So what's the economic plan here?
Revitalization. President Trump is urging major American firms to invest $100 billion to rebuild that failing infrastructure. The stated goals are to stabilize global oil prices and counter the influence of Russia and China in the region.
But seizing control of another nation's primary resource? That's a huge violation of sovereignty. What's the international reaction been?
Sharp criticism, especially from the global south. Namibia, for example, called it a violation of international law and a return to a colonial mindset. It's a move that risks alienating a lot of countries.
And this assertion of power isn't just economic, it's also military in Somalia.
That's right. The administration is continuing and even escalating airstrikes against the al-Shabaab militant group there. It's a signal of an ongoing, high-priority counterterrorism focus in the Horn of Africa.
And all of these actions are kind of underpinned by a very controversial statement President Trump made about his own limitations.
He publicly stated that he doesn't feel constrained by international law, but rather by his own morality. That statement has, as you can imagine, intensified the global debate about the legality and accountability of U.S. actions.
It's a critical backdrop for the most volatile crisis we're watching right now: the massive protests in Iran.
The situation there is escalating very quickly. It started with economic grievances, the currency is collapsing, there are severe heat and water crises, but it is rapidly morphed into outright political demands against the regime.
And the political message has become very specific.
Very specific. The slogan being chanted in Tehran and other cities is, "Not for Gaza, not for Lebanon, we live for Iran."
A direct challenge to the government's foreign policy priorities.
It's a demand to spend resources at home, not on proxy groups abroad. It's a profound shift.
And the regime's response has been brutal.
The reported casualties are devastating. U.S.-based human rights groups are reporting death tolls of over 1,850, with some reports suggesting it could be as high as 2,400. It's a severe human rights crisis.
And they're trying to impose an information blackout.
They're trying very hard, jamming Starlink signals, targeting users, shutting down chat services, and comment sections on the internet. Information control is key to their strategy.
President Trump's response has been exceptionally strong, especially warning against executing protesters.
He issued a very strong warning of very strong action if Iran executes protesters, and he promised that help is on its way.
Which carries a huge risk of escalation.
A massive risk. Iran immediately accused the U.S. of seeking a pretext for military intervention. The situation is on a knife's edge.
And this puts pressure on global alliances like the SKO and BRICS, which Iran is a part of.
It puts them in a very difficult position. They oppose U.S. unilateralism, but can they stay silent on the human rights abuses happening in a member state?
And how is Russia framing this?
Through the lens of their own rivalry with the West, the Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova accused the West of engineering a color revolution aimed at regime change. They see it as an external plot, not an organic uprising.
A few other security incidents to round this out. First, espionage here in the U.S.
A former U.S. Navy sailor was sentenced to 16 years in prison for selling classified information about naval ships to Chinese intelligence, a stark reminder of that ongoing threat.
And a major cybersecurity breach.
Yes, a 24-year-old is set to plead guilty to hacking the U.S. Supreme Court's electronic filing system. This raises really serious concerns about the security of our judicial data.
Finally, in Ukraine, internal corruption continues to be a major problem.
The Ukrainian parliament dismissed both the defense minister and the minister of digital transformation amid a wave of corruption scandals, including a $100 million kickback scheme. This is the kind of internal turmoil that complicates support from Western allies.
And the war itself continues with a cross-border strike.
A Ukrainian drone attack caused a major industrial fire in Rostov-on-Don in southern Russia, injuring 4 people. It shows Ukraine is still capable and willing to hit strategic targets inside Russia.
Okay, let's shift to economic realities. We've got mixed signals on inflation, a tough job market, and some pretty aggressive political moves in housing.
The inflation story is definitely confusing for people. The official number, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, rose 2.7% year-on-year in December.
Which is actually a bit better than expected, right?
It is. Core prices, which strip out volatile food and energy, were only up 2.6%. But President Trump's rhetoric is clashing with how many voters are feeling.
He told business leaders inflation is defeated.
He did, which contrasts sharply with the reality that groceries, housing, and gas are still significantly more expensive for most people than they were a few years ago.
So what's the Federal Reserve likely to do with interest rates?
The thinking from analysts like Mark Zandi at Moody's is that they'll start cutting rates soon. He's forecasting 3 rate cuts by July.
Driven by what?
Driven by a weakening labor market, which reduces wage pressure and, honestly, mounting political pressure to stimulate the economy.
And that labor market weakness is real. The December numbers were not good.
They were sobering. The U.S. added only 50,000 non-farm jobs. It capped the worst year for hiring since 2020.
And this instability is showing up in business health, too. Bankruptcies are up.
Way up. Over 700 U.S. businesses filed for bankruptcy in 2025. That's the highest number we've seen since the 2010 recession.
And in response to some of this economic pain, particularly in housing, we're seeing a major presidential proposal.
A very contentious one. President Trump has proposed a ban on large institutional investors like Blackstone and Invitation Homes from buying single-family homes.
The goal being to help first-time buyers who are getting outbid by these giant corporations turning homes into rentals.
That's the stated goal. It definitely addresses a very visible symptom of the affordability crisis. We all saw this happen after the 2008 crash.
But critics are saying it doesn't fix the root cause.
Right. They argue that the real problems are things like restrictive zoning laws that limit the construction of new houses and just a general housing shortage. They say this ban is a political fix that won't solve the fundamental supply and demand problem.
So with all this uncertainty, inflation fears, geopolitical risk, a weak labor market, where is the big money going for safety?
Hard assets. A classic flight to safety. Gold and silver prices are nearing record highs.
And silver just cracked a huge number, didn't it?
It did. It broke $90 an ounce. This reflects a major investment shift away from things like private equity and toward tangible safe haven assets. It signals real anxiety among the wealthiest investors.
Okay, our final major section. Legal and political accountability, both at home and abroad.
And we start with a truly dramatic legal situation in South Korea, where prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for a former president, Yoon Suk-yeol.
The death penalty, why?
It all stems from his controversial declaration of martial law back in 2024. Prosecutors are alleging it wasn't a move to defend the state, but a failed insurrection, an attempt to unlawfully hold on to power.
The Supreme Court there ruled it was unconstitutional, which led to his impeachment and jailing.
Correct, but Prosecutors are arguing the crime was so severe an attempt to subvert democracy that the ultimate punishment is warranted.
But is that likely to happen?
Most legal experts say a life sentence is far more probable. South Korea has had an unofficial moratorium on execution since 1997.
Meanwhile, in France, the future of the far-right movement is hinging on a legal appeal from Marine Le Pen.
That's right. The longtime leader of the National Rally Party is appealing a court decision that banned her from holding public office for 5 years.
For embezzlement conviction?
For misusing EU funds, yes. And the outcome of this appeal is pivotal for the 2027 presidential election.
If the ban is upheld, she's out.
She's out, but, and this is the intriguing part, her chosen successor, Jordan Bardella, is polling even stronger than she was. It suggests the movement is bigger than just her at this point.
Back in the U.S., we have several high-profile legal battles, starting with the Clintons and the Jeffrey Epstein investigation.
Bill and Hillary Clinton have refused to comply with congressional subpoenas to testify about the Epstein probe. This has prompted Republicans on the committee to threaten contempt charges.
Then there's this incredibly complex legal fight over abortion pills crossing state lines.
It's a major test case. Louisiana officials are trying to extradite a doctor from California.
For what?
For illegally mailing abortion pills to a woman in Louisiana, where abortion is heavily restricted. This raises huge constitutional questions about whether one state can prosecute someone for an action that was legal where it was performed.
That feels like something the Supreme Court will have to decide.
It very well might. And on a related note, the Senate did just pass a crucial bill to fight the abuse of AI. Yes, a bipartisan bill that allows victims to sue the creators and distributors of deepfake pornography. It's a vital first step in giving victims legal recourse against this kind of digital abuse.
And one last piece of news from the UK about transparency and the police.
Hundreds of officers in London's Metropolitan Police have voluntarily declared their links to the Freemasons or other secretive organizations. It's part of a new mandate to enhance transparency and address long-standing concerns about potential conflicts of interest.
So after all of that, we've covered a ton of ground today, from the incredible science of the Earth and Moon to the economic volatility and geopolitical brinkmanship in Iran and the Arctic.
I think the key takeaways all point to this theme of profound disruption and really rapid adaptation. We saw the immediate impact of AI on infrastructure.
It's power crunch.
The power crunch, the need for new solutions like nuclear fission. And we also saw that huge shift in U.S. domestic politics, with 59% of Democrats now identifying as liberal, the highest that number's been since 1976.
A real generational transformation.
And geopolitically, things are just razor sharp. That Donroe Doctrine in the Arctic, the crisis in Iran that could escalate at any moment, it's a lot.
It's a complex, often alarming world. But that's exactly why we do this. You need to understand how the scale of black holes connect to the scale of a cyber attack.
Right. And as we wrap up, I keep thinking about something from our archaeology segment, that 5,000-year-old Minga dolmen in Spain.
Where medieval people were still burying their dead.
4 millennia later, that sense of continuity of cultural memory, it lasted longer than any political crisis or economic bubble we're talking about today.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? The long view.
It does. Our generation is so focused on speed, on innovation. We talked about the CarbSAR satellite, this breakthrough made from knitted gold yarn. It's incredible.
So what's the question you're left with?
The question is, what will be the CarbSAR or the Menga dolmen moment of the next decade? What technological leap or historical discovery that we make today will actually outlast the current headlines? What achievement will still command respect, will still shape memory in the year 7026? That's the real challenge.
A truly provocative thought. Until next time, keep digging.
You're enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Nope. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.